The more aware we are of these frequencies, the more we can manage our brain. When we're conscious, we're awake, we're aware. When we're asleep, we're in our unconscious, we're deeply at rest. In gamma, we're in the middle. We're present, we can be conscious, we can be creative, we can use our rationality, yet applying our unconscious, everything we don't see, the quantum field. How can we rewire our brain? Our tricky, predictable, autonomic brain. It's programmed to make you survive, to make you comfortable, to signal the body in an instant what it should be doing. It's an autonomic to protect you. It needs the same comfortable signals in your brain in order to operate in a comfort state of being. And that's where you feel safe. But internally, you just feel comfortable with the way you've been feeling. That's when you're stuck in a mood, in a cycle, in a rut. So this over here, neurons fire and signal together to create a synapses in your brain. So you go from thought to thinking. When you're thinking, you start manifesting a feeling. And when we use neuroscience to understand that synapses, it's signaling the whole nervous system to react in autonomic to protect you. So it's firing all of these hormones, chemicals within your body. When we start thinking about different things, we start going in different events. We start going back into our limbic system when we're present, looking for a past memory that takes us to a past feeling that resonates with the current one. So we create a bigger mood. That's what we say, stuck in a mood. So by understanding that in our brain, we have different frequencies that we go through. Each different frequency puts you into a different state of being. And depending on the state of being you're in, you can tap into things differently. The more aware we are of these frequencies, the more we can manage our brain. Put it down when it gets evoked, when it wants to protect you, when it wants to act in autonomic. We can regulate it. Understanding the actual connection between the mind and the body. The brain is not the mind. The mind is how we think, how we analyze, how we use information. That's our creative side. That's our neocortex. The brain is a machine. It's literally running constantly, signaling your whole other body, your nervous system. So it's taking all of that information and it has no time. Your subconscious mind has no time. So no matter how much mad you get in a current moment about something you subconsciously did and scream at yourself, there's no one in your subconscious. There's no time there. So we have to access it with compassion and understand the deeper root of whatever it's being manifested. That's using shadow work. You ever wonder why during the day you have a different chip in the brain where you can do different activities based on your environment, based on what you set your mind to? That's you evolving from brainwave to brainwave. We can all tap into these brainwaves depending on the activity we want to tap into. We can become like an alchemist of our brainwaves. But we have to understand what makes our brain comfortable, what makes our brain tap into these brainwaves. So to tap into the brainwaves, we have to understand them. Basically, scientists first discovered these four. So from delta to beta. Delta is when you're asleep, you're dreaming, you're resting your body. In theta, you're waking up. From ages 0 to 7 years old, our brain was developing, so we were in a theta state of being. That's when we were conditioned. Kids are creative, they talk to imaginary things. They're in a theta state of being where they're not using their cognition, they're not asleep, but they're creative because they don't have that anxious state of being developed yet. Alpha is when you're getting thoughts, but you're not anxious, you're present. You're okay, you're chill. And then beta is when you're deeply focus onto something, you're doing something cognitively, using your rationality, putting things together. That's when you're at your most anxious peak. You're using all of your thoughts, but you're seeing all of them combined at the same time, which causes anxiety. Scientists first discovered these four brainwave frequencies. And in 1930s, with an EEG, which is a machine to test the electrical activity in the brain, scientists tested the brains of monks. And they would focus on their practices doing meditation and couldn't be disturbed. They wouldn't be disturbed. They wouldn't let other circumstances disturb them. Scientists tested them to see how did that gain that mental strength, what was happening in the brain during that. And they discovered a new brainwave frequency, which is between alpha and beta. Gamma is when you're focused on something, yet you're present, which is now known as flow. When we're really focused on something, yet we're out of it. We're not anxious with a lot of thoughts using the cognitive side. We're unconsciously using our imagination, applying it with our focus. We're not only present, we're using presence. We're using our thoughts in different mental states during the day. So the more we fire the same thoughts, the same neurons, in our anxious state of being, the more we're going to stay there, and the more it's going to manifest into us staying there and staying stuck in these moods, these cycles. I know, I'm sorry I keep changing angles. Is that my camera is acting weird? It's all about understanding that we have an unconscious and a conscious. Where we're conscious, we're awake, we're aware. When we're asleep, we're in our unconscious, we're deeply at rest. In Gamma, we can see both realms. We're in the middle. We're present, we can be conscious, we can be creative, we can use our rationality, yet applying our unconscious, everything we don't see, the quantum field. So when we're waking up, you don't want to jump automatically to beta. If you can go through all of these brainwaves, we can tap into Gamma, into flow, and be creative with our work. Becoming an alchemist of the different brainwave frequencies we can tap into, then we understand that we can do this through meditation, through daily practices with ourselves, being in tune with ourselves, using yoga to connect the mind and the body, whatever practice you might like. But it's mainly just understanding the mechanism to change our brainwaves. That's why Joe Dispenza talks about, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, all of these are pioneering the importance of recognizing your conscious and your unconscious. And the more we understand the difference between these two brainwaves, the more we can understand that we can tap into them differently. We can reprogram our mind. It's a matter of understanding and being in tune with the brain, recalibrating it depending on what it needs. We can calibrate our environment to recalibrate ourselves internally. And that's how our mind and our body work together. We rationalize what we need to change. We change the environment for the brain to adapt and whatever it perceives to be in a more calm mental brainwave, so we can tap into our mind in more creative ways. So if we start to notice that we're constantly anxious lately, we are chronically overthinking, stressed, having the same racing thoughts, anxiety creeps in constantly, then you know you're stuck in a beta brainwave frequency mostly throughout your day. So when we understand this, we can tap into more being in a theta or alpha by going to nature, getting your mind in tune with your body by shifting your breath, using sound, whatever you can do to change the environment. So when you're having a lot of thoughts, a lot of synaptic connections, especially when we're associating whatever we're overthinking with a past event, so our brain is making all of these images in our head, that's going to keep us cycling in the same brainwave frequencies of our beta cognitive plum, 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 plum. You're having a lot of anxious thoughts, repeating thoughts. Throughout your day, prioritizing being more in an alpha or theta state of being, prioritizing balancing this, then we can tap more into our creativity, being more compassionate with ourselves. And I know it's hard, it's not like you can just run away from your mind and your thoughts, your racing thoughts, but just adapting your environment can allow your brain to breathe a little more. When we're too stuck in our mind, too stuck in our thoughts, in social media, in your phones, whatever circumstance that you're boom, 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 inner cognitively, boom, 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 you need to recalibrate by tuning back yourself, becoming an alchemist of yourself. And there's many tools we can use, such as astrology, neuroscience, to understand ourselves. That's all this is about, to recalibrate our own self instead of having external events having influence over us. So yeah, I'm gonna go deeper into this. I just wanted to kind of like introduce the brain waves so we can start tuning our little brain that can sometimes do things to protect us, but essentially it's just dimming our light, our potential. It's staying us stuck in fear, anxious thoughts in our beta frequency, which is the normal frequencies we're always stuck on. Delta, you're asleep. Theta, you're like waking up, you're imaginative, creative. Alpha, you're present. Beta, you're cognitively using your rationality on a task, having to focus. And then Gamma, you're in the middle from alpha to beta hertz. So it creates a new brainwave frequency, the fifth brainwave frequency, which puts us in a present state of being where we can see outside of the box. We can see in the quantum field. We can see the energy in the present, and we can see farther out things, possibilities, not only from what we know, not only from our memory, not only from our past. There's more possibilities if you can just be a little more present, if we can just tune our brain back. Understanding the brainwave frequencies, we can recalibrate our brain. Understanding that we might be running an unconscious pattern and we're stuck in a beta brainwave frequency where we're thinking the same thoughts, manifesting the same moods, creating the same thinking patterns, staying always in anxious brainwaves during the day. Instead of running to our anxious states of being, it's okay if we're just present. It's okay if we tap into more states of being with ourselves, and that might actually help us. Recalibrating our brain, adapting our environment so our brain feels safe and it can become clearer for the mind to speak to it and coordinate it better. Yourself is ever changing. If you're stuck in a thinking pattern, if you're stuck in the same ways of thinking, the same moods, and you can't get out, you might be running a character that is at deep rest, that is depressed. And you just have to change the version of the self that you have about yourself, because your character is deeply rested. And that means another character has to be born with awareness, thinking outside of the box, looking for creative solutions, understanding that we can recalibrate every time we need. It's a matter of tapping into our unconscious, understanding ourselves, being curious with ourselves, having compassion, whatever form, whatever makes you feel more you, whatever can tap you into you, that is what's going to keep you grounded the most. And how can you apply that creativity to fuel it to your potential and help other people? And look at yourself, your past, every recollection that you have of your past, work on your unconscious, integrate it, and become a new self.